Brent Earlewine, welcome to the Shred Truck podcast studio. I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here too. This is actually a really cool setup. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to talk to you. So if anybody doesn't know you, and I presume a lot of people don't know who you are, but if they don't, who are you? What do you do? Who do you represent?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brent Earlewine, Senior Director of Global Channels. So I work for a division of Verizon called Verizon Connect. Most people think of Verizon, they think of, you got a cell phone in your pocket, it's wireless, can you hear me now, all that kind of good stuff. So I'll label that as Big Verizon.
Okay.
Verizon Connect is a division we put together probably about 7 or 8 years ago. We're focused on offering solutions for GPS tracking, telematics around commercial fleets. So they bought 3 pretty large companies in the industry, stitched them together, created this division, and our division is it's pretty big, actually.
Really?
So as a separate company, it would be considered a pretty large company, 2,500 employees, 14 countries.
No way.
Yeah. So we do a ton of business in this space, cuts across every vertical you can imagine, but anybody that's got a commercial fleet, we offer telematics solutions for their trucks.
So the word telematics, for somebody who doesn't know it, because sometimes I just like to make sure everybody's on the same. What's telematics mean?
So 2 answers to that. The easy answer is, if you think back, and this has been going on for a long time, there's a couple of telematics providers, but that's really kind of the dots on the map, right? You're tracking where that vehicle is. What's also embedded in that is you're collecting data on the driving of the vehicle, right? So harsh cornering, harsh braking, accidents, events, you name it, right? So you're actually getting telemetry data is why it's called telematics.
Okay.
So now it's so much more than that, right? So there's all these layers that we add, some others add as well, but really around video, road facing, in-cab facing. So now we're looking at things like not just where it is and what's happening with that vehicle, but you're seeing it live in real time. It's got triggers on the video, so when something happens, it uploads that video clip to your dashboard so your fleet managers can see it. And then now that starts to translate into how do you alter the behavior of your drivers, right? How do you make them safer? How do you make them better at what they do on a daily basis? So there's a lot more to it now than just the GPS tracking.
So presumably, as are you? I would presume, and I don't know this. Are you sort of the Goliath in the industry now?
We are. So depending on how you want to measure it, we're either number 1 or number 2 market share. People will measure it 1 of 2 ways, either in top line revenues or number of subscribers, but essentially we're in that number 1 position.
Okay. So presumably with that, you're doing a lot of R&D work. You're across how many all across the world?
14 countries.
14 countries. You got 2,500 employees, which means you're running a lot of telematics and stuff in people's trucks.
We are, yeah.
So what are the biggest things you're seeing happen today? What are you learning and seeing that's of particular note versus just you got a camera and we got all this data we're collecting, but what's showing up now more than ever?
A couple of things. So, I'll give you a stat. We have a little over 2.2 million vehicles that we have relationships with and under contract, and that we're tracking on our platform on a daily basis. 2.2 million.
Wow.
And we add somewhere north of about 40 to 50,000 a month every month. So pretty big chunk of the market. The things that we see is, again, it's no longer just about dots on a map. It's really about what is the data telling you, and then how do you apply that data.
Right.
So whether it's the camera feed, whether it's the telemetry data, essentially you get to a proactive stance in how you manage your fleet, manage your drivers, and try to get to safer outcomes. So typically we see things like people are setting up reports, a safety dashboard, they're setting thresholds on whatever the incident rate might be, and then managing to those thresholds, and then doing really proactive, good, deep coaching and driver training. And then that starts to translate into financial benefits across multiple instances. One of the easy ones, or the big ones, is just negotiation with your insurance carrier to get to discounts on your rates, which turns into really large dollars if you manage a commercial fleet.
Yeah, so I mean that's an interesting, because the cost of, presumably, and I've actually heard this, and I don't know if I heard this based on what was presented at your presentation, but I've heard that failure to put now your type of equipment in a truck, yours or a competitor's, actually means a dramatically different insurance rate.
It does. Yeah. If it's almost become table stakes, is how I would explain it, right? So if you don't have it, you're going to just see massive increases in your insurance just for the sheer notification that you have it, whether you've done anything with it or not. You'll see almost 20% discount on your insurance rates.
Seriously, and insurance in fleets right now
is insane. It's insane.
I'm seeing people are getting 30-40% increases
completely, and you're seeing some companies are even taking the route where they're self-insuring because they can't afford the insurance policy, so they set aside the money to pay the claims out of their own pocket, which is another discussion. But not only just having it, you'll see upwards to 20% discount, but once you have it and then you can show that you're actively leveraging it,
right?
Now you go back year over year, they want to raise your rates 10%, 20%, 30% year over year, every year. Now you're actively negotiating to go, look, I don't only have it, but I'm using it, and I can prove to you that I'm a safer commercial fleet, and here are my stats. So it's another layer that the smart people are starting to understand. If I'm proactively manage my commercial fleet, I can take that data back to my insurance carrier and negotiate a better rate even than what I have today.
So how are you at Verizon Connect actually then helping your clients to do that? Or is there a program, like is there dashboards that they're going, okay, we saw this situation presumably a number of times or over, and then you did this, you did something, and as a result, now we're seeing a reduced, or like what, is there some, sorry, it's a crappy question. I think you know where I'm going, though.
I do, yeah. So a couple of answers to that as well. So we've got pre-built reports and dashboards, recommendations, alerts to the managers. We've got in-cab alerts off the cameras that will actually have contextually aware alerts to the driver to say, hey, you're following too close, or whatever the instance might be. Yep. Okay. And then the other piece to that is we hired a dedicated gentleman that used to run a commercial fleet north of 20,000 commercial vehicles, specifically to start a safety practice. And we did that to go back to our customers and go, we can help you create a safety practice around the platform and around your commercial fleet. So these are the best practices. This is how you turn one on. This is how you communicate with your drivers. Here's how you get to better outcomes. And that's drawn pretty significant changes. We can show stats where lower collision rates, lower incident rates, high double digits, like 30, 40, 50% drops in harsh braking, harsh cornering. So when you proactively have a safety practice wrapped around the platform, that's when you see kind of the magic show up.
Wow. That's to me, that's the magic sauce right there. Because it's not just the data you get, it's what you do with the data.
Correct. You can get data from a lot of sources, but you have to proactively do something with the data. And we help you figure out, what does that mean? What do I need to do with it? How do I do it? And how do I get moving? The hardest step is always that first one. So our customers, it's 0 to 1 is the hardest. 1 to 100 is almost easy. Not quite easy, but a lot easier than just getting started.
Yeah, so it's getting your equipment in the truck,
and then starting to do something with the data, and then leverage the power of the platform. And then the other thing that I'd add is we have an ecosystem play, and what I mean by that is we have a little north of 40 to 50 third-party software vendors that are very complementary to our solution, and we have integrations with them. And a couple examples, almost all commercial fleets have fuel cards, right? Corpay, WEX. We have platform integration with those fuel card companies so we can share the data. So now you're getting the power of that extended relationship with somebody that does something very specific that's super complementary to the telematics. You see maintenance and break fix. You see digital forms. You see route optimization and route planning. So when you're sending people out, again, you need to do this as a commercial fleet operator, but we have all these pre-built integrations with a very broad swath.
And by integrations, are you talking API, or they're just they're pre-connected?
Both. So depending on the relationship, some people can take advantage. We have APIs that are really kind of self-serve. That's usually the starting point with an integration relationship, and then eventually we move to some dedicated deep integrations where you got data sharing going between the two platforms.
Got it. That's really amazing. So, from your perspective, you're here at the shredding industry.
Yes.
The rank and file, a member here drives 5 to 7 shred trucks. some more. Obviously, there's the bigger players, and then there's smaller players. I've heard recently one of my clients is moving to you, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
So what do you say to this industry? Because this industry doesn't have 10,000 trucks, other than
Correct.
maybe the biggest players in the space.
Yeah.
But, 5 to 7 truck operator, what's the value prop for a 5 to 7 truck operator? We've talked insurance, so that's one.
Yep.
But for a shred truck operator, tell me a little bit about your perspective now that you've been at the conference.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things there as well. So we cut across not only multiple verticals, but we also cut across multiple enterprise sizes. So everything from 20,000 vehicles all the way down to 5 vehicles and everything in between.
Yeah.
We actually do a fair amount in that, like 5 to 150 vehicle. That's 30-40% of our business.
Okay.
So there's a sweet spot there. The benefits, it's multiple. So if you look at the insurance rate discounts, that's an easy one. That's why I said it that way first, right? So you can calculate it. You have the conversation. You'll see an immediate benefit. Longer term, though, if you have safer drivers and you're driving towards a safer outcome, that means you're starting to mitigate your risks on actual collisions and payouts. You want to get your drivers home at the end of the day, right? So by having safer drivers, you end up with a safer record. Now you're not dealing with, broken trucks, wrecked trucks, people that are getting serious injuries, and unfortunately even up to and including fatalities, right? This is all about safety as an outcome.
Right.
And if you own, drive, and operate commercial vehicles, this is a baseline. You really need to have this kind of stuff in your system to end up with a safer outcome.
Well, and one of the reasons I asked that, because, there's box trucks. Undoubtedly, you have hundreds of thousands of your equipment in box trucks, but a shred truck, particularly this piece of equipment we're sitting in, I don't know, $300,000. This thing's a beast.
Correct.
You don't want to, and it's not so much the front of the truck that matters or the box. It's that piece of equipment in the middle that, they all cost money, these floors and stuff like that. But I mean, this thing goes down for a week because you hit somebody or you did a stupid move.
Correct.
It's expensive.
No, and if they're running 5, 6, 7 trucks, how much business is attached to each one of the trucks, right?
Correct.
So the downtime is a big piece. The other thing that's it's sad to say in today's society, but we see an awful lot of examples that people are trying to do some sort of insurance scam. And you think of the brake check. Somebody pulls in front of that truck, they hit their brakes in the hopes that the truck's going to hit them in the back end, and then they make a claim. If you're rolling a large shred truck, what's on the side of the truck? Your logo. And the first thing somebody thinks of is, it's a company, it's got a logo, it's got deep pockets. That's a prime target for me to try to do one of these scams. Right. And we see that all the time. Really? We do. It's very sad.
Oh, man.
So, not just the insurance, but, mitigating and exoneration of false claims happens all around you.
Yeah, and so it's an easy. I think I heard the guy from Arthur Hall Insurance the other day talk about it. Like, it's very easy then to send an email, cease and desist, to the other lawyer and say, basically, we've got video evidence.
Here's the video clip, what you said. Because if you don't have that, what happens? It's he said, she said, and then you're going to fight it out. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. The other side of that, too, again, it's kind of an unfortunate discussion, but if you do have some sort of incident or a claim, it's either exoneration, it wasn't your fault, or if it was your fault, you end up getting to a faster settlement, which could mitigate, again, your financial exposure, right? Good. So I don't want to go fight that out. If it really was my fault, I want to settle it fast, settle it hopefully at a lower dollar amount, and keep on moving.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, so what did you not tell me that you should have told me? What would you tell somebody who's not at the conference, doesn't get to come and talk to you, didn't get to see your session? Did we miss anything out of your session that we should have talked about?
We hit most of the highlights. I would say that we did a session. It was with Samba Safety. That's one of our integration partners that I referenced earlier. All they do motor vehicle records. So it's, again, a very complimentary service. They also do intense coaching and training for the drivers. So if there's an event that's triggered, they actually can trigger their courses. They're very contextually aware. They're short. They're bite-sized, so it's easy to consume. So that was the only thing I didn't really mention out of the session was a partnership with Samba, but I want to make sure it's an important one for us. If they're not in the shredding industry or in the shredding industry, I would tell you that most large fleets already have something. They're pretty sophisticated. They've been down this road for the last couple of years. It's really the smaller fleets that are still catching up. So I would, again, re-emphasize the idea, me or somebody else, there's a couple of competitors. It's okay.
Right.
it really is table stakes. You don't understand how much risk you're looking at on a daily basis if you're not putting something like this in your trucks and proactively managing it. You can't just have a platform. You got to do something with that data and apply it, right?
Quick other question that just popped to mind.
Sure.
What about like like if you're running vans around, not just trucks?
Correct.
Vans,
Yep.
smaller fleets, but like say in the medical waste, they might not have big trucks running around.
Don't need to. Yeah, don't need to.
Okay.
So we do effectively, you think, because we do a lot with contractors and, landscapers and plumbers and electricians as well. So you'll see F-150s to, Class 3, Class 4, Class 5, Class 6, all the way up to and including Class 8. But again, that sweet spot is really that like Class 3 to Class 5.
Okay.
And that's listed as light duty commercial vehicles. So that happens a lot.
So everything in that category.
Correct.
Yeah, you're doing that too. So
absolutely.
And you can presumably put it across all kinds of trucks if you have different
doesn't matter.
types of,
Yeah, there's two technologies we could just real quick. So if it's aftermarket, there's a physical device that plugs into the OBD port. That's what actually does the tracking. And then we have the cameras that get wired into it, and then we have cellular connection so we can see it, track it. If you have Ford or GM vehicles, most of those vehicles actually already have sensors built into the vehicles now. So those two companies have really moved forward in the last couple of years. I can pull data from their sensors, and I don't necessarily need another device. I might still add cameras, but the VTU or the vehicle tracking unit, I'm using their sensors instead of an aftermarket device. So the industry itself is starting to shift, that most of the OEMs are embedding sensors into their vehicles now.
And I know some of the manufacturers here,
That's right.
manufacturers are showing this year their tracking
Yep.
capabilities and stuff. So that's really cool. Well, man, this has been fabulous. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
It's really helpful to understand what you're doing. I did not know how big this company was.
Yeah.
Like I understood it to be part of a part of the Verizon, group of companies, but I didn't realize how big of a company you were. That's
It's
really cool.
a stealth $700 million company that nobody's heard of.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing, and appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.